Hello again. I have read the Gospel according to John several times. In fact, I have taught my way verse by verse through John a couple of times in my life, as well as currently while we are doing our harmonization of the Gospels, we're going through Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John yet again. In fact, I credit the Gospel of John with bringing me back to Christianity after I had chased my rock and roll years. So I have a great affection for the Gospel of John, and I feel like I know it relatively well. And yet, recently, I was listening to a sermon on the very end of the Gospel of John, chapter 21, and something leapt out at me that I had never seen before. And it affected me so much so that I thought I'm going to make a video about this. One of the things that I have insisted on for years is that we pay attention to what the Bible actually says. And the reason that I keep emphasizing that over and over again is that so much error and so much misunderstanding of what's actually happening in the Bible is a result of people assuming meanings that the words on the page just don't say. And so that's really going to be the theme of what I'm going to show you and demonstrate today from the very end of the Gospel of John. So let's read the pertinent passage and then we'll talk about it a bit. Starting at John 21, verse 15. So when they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" And he said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." And he said to him, "Tend my lambs." He said to him again a second time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" And he said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." And he said to him, "Shepherd my sheep." He said to him a third time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was grieved because he said to him the third time, "Do you love me?" And he said to him, "Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you." And Jesus said to him, "Tend my sheep. Truly, truly, I say to you, when you were younger, you used to gird yourself and walk wherever you wished. But when you grow old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will gird you and bring you where you do not wish to go." Now this he said, signaling by what kind of death he would glorify God. And when he had spoken this, he said to him, "Follow me." And that is the introduction to what I'm going to point out momentarily. You know the story. Peter had denied his Lord 3 times and had even said, "I don't know him." So this is a beautiful story of restoration and redemption here at the end of the book of John, because Jesus comes to Peter. Peter couldn't get to Jesus. Jesus comes to Peter and says to him 3 times, "Do you love me?" The question is, do you love me more than these? And we don't know if he's saying more than the fish, because Peter had said, "Well, I go fishing." Or whether he was saying, "Do you love me more than these other disciples, the other apostles around you, your fellow fishermen?" Either way, what he was doing was allowing Peter to declare 3 times his love for Christ. And as a result, Jesus said, well, in your old age, you're going to be martyred. You're going to not be able to even dress yourself. You're going to hold out your hands. Someone else is going to gird you, and they're going to take you someplace you don't want to go. Okay, so that bad news, Peter, in your older years, you're going to be martyred, led Peter to ask a really interesting question. Peter, turning around, saw the disciple whom Jesus loved following them, the one who also had leaned back on his bosom at the supper and said, "Lord, who is the one who betrays you?" So Peter, seeing him, said to Jesus, "Lord, and what about this man?" Jesus said to him, "If I want him to remain until I come, what is that to you? You follow me." Therefore, this saying went out among the brethren, that disciple would not die. Jesus did not say to him that he would not die, but only said, "If I want him to remain until I come, what is that to you?" This is the disciple who is testifying to these things and wrote these things, and we know that his testimony is true. There is a lot of really interesting stuff going on there, but the main thing that leapt out at me was how easily, even among the apostles, they misunderstood Jesus' meaning because they misunderstood his words. They didn't pay attention to what he actually said. What he said to Peter was, when Peter said, "Well, what about John? What about him? What's going to happen to him? Is he going to be martyred the way I'm martyred?" And Jesus said, "If I decide that he's going to live until I come back, what is that to you? You follow me." And that led to the understanding, the rumor among the apostles and the disciples that John was not going to die. And so then John corrects it, and the way that he corrects their misunderstanding is going back to, what does the word say? He didn't say, "I wasn't going to die." What he said was, in context, very understandably, he said, "If he should live until I come, what is that to you? Whatever I choose to do with anyone else is not your concern. You follow me." So what really jumped out at me is how quickly, how easily people misunderstood the words of Jesus because they didn't pay attention to the actual words that he said. And John, in clearing up their misapprehension, went back to, "Yeah, but what did he say?" Actual wording. What did he actually say? And that's really all I've been arguing for every time I teach the Bible, every time I make a video. I just keep saying, yes, but what does the word say? Because so many folks have so many misunderstandings and misapprehensions and come to conclusions that the Bible just never comes to because they're not paying adequate attention to what does the word say. So I just wanted to point that out as a biblical example of the necessity, of the importance of really paying close attention to what the word says. And that will clear up a whole lot of stuff for you. A whole lot of misunderstandings will just fly out the window when you pay attention to what it actually says. Okay, there's that for today. I'll see you again. Thanks again for dialing us up. Bye.